Well, hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about Salt Typhoon and other things. It is Tuesday, November 26th, 2024. And Doug, you say you got a good one?
Yeah, are you is Salt Typhoon on your list as well?
Sure, but go ahead and start it. It's fine.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. So
I
this
thought that was
dates,
the most important one this week.
yeah, me too. This one is the sleeper story that began, I think, back in October of this year. Am I correct on is that what your research is saying too?
Oh, I've been hearing about it for a while. I'm not quite sure when it started.
Okay, well, maybe that's when it was discovered. And what it turns out is years ago, as in 20 years ago, law enforcement installed a secret backdoor to our phone systems that allowed them to listen in on phone calls.
Was it secret? I thought it was Kalia and it was pretty public.
Well, Kalia,
You know, I mean,
yeah,
Kalia
okay.
was legal. I mean, it's wiretaps. We've had them since the wired phone network for decades.
Yeah, this is wired a phone network, but it also applies to cellular
Right,
and text messages.
right.
And it's claimed, at least my portion that I've researched, is that it only is targeted about 150 people or so, maybe more.
Wow. And all that time?
Well, this is what's been released from what I've seen so far.
Hmm.
So maybe you know more. But those 150 people are not on the West Coast. Let's say they're on the East Coast, if you're understanding what I mean, specifically in the Washington, D.C., Virginia area.
They're
And the
targeting.
Chinese have been listening in on text messages as well as telephone calls.
Well, that's okay. Now, I've seen quite different reports. The
Ah,
one that just came out in the New York Times said that
yes.
it's talking about the recent intrusion by the Salt Typhoon Group, which is the Chinese military,
Yeah, we should have
and,
brought that up,
and they
right?
say they didn't actually listen to the phone calls. What they accessed was who was being targeted, the list of phone numbers, and perhaps SMSs. And they say, and and they said the point of this is they were able to tell who was being investigated by the U.S. government, by the U.S. Law enforcement, and therefore they can tell which of their spies have been caught.
Oh, now I did not hear that portion of the
Yeah,
story.
yeah, and so I think this reminds me very much of China's hack of Google in 2010, which was the same thing. They hacked into Gmail, but what they wanted was not to steal the mail, but to get to the lawful intercept investigation of email to see who was being targeted. And at that
I
time,
see.
the interpretation I heard of this was they would use it to find out who was in what gang, who was talking to who, so they could try to find anti-government gangs. But now it appears to be they say it's for this purpose, so they can tell which spies are still safe, still effective. And now they say the hack has gone beyond the phone companies to internet service providers, so they might be able to read email as well. And some American phone calls and emails may have been compromised, but the officials emphasized that encrypted applications like WhatsApp, and Signal were not penetrated.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
and Sam, I believe just this was brought up. Apple's iMessage, those are not encrypted, correct?
I don't know. They're not end-to-end encrypted, I think, but they do say messages sent within Apple's own network were also safe.
I see. Okay.
But I
Yeah.
think if you
Yeah.
go out of Apple's network over to an Android, then you probably pass through an unsafe intermediary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Okay.
but I mean, I've a few interesting messages here. I think we're learning more about the Chinese spying, and it is really serious, just like their intrusion into our critical infrastructure. Um, People are getting more and more upset about this. Of course, it's been going on since at least 2005, I know of, that China is hacking everything, and it
Yeah.
continues pretty much
Yeah.
unabated. Uh, and there's also, I'm glad to see that WhatsApp and Signal are considerably safer. Although, as we talked about last time, you can get in those by just putting malware on your phone, Pegasus or Predator,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
stuff is expensive and not as common. So,
Yeah. So it sounds like we kind of have pretty much the same information
yeah, well,
so far.
yeah,
At
I
least
mean,
this is what's been released.
it reminds me very much of the time around 2010 when it came out that China had been hacking everybody for 5 years, and it only gradually came to public view how much they'd been penetrating everything. And by the way, I'm sure we're doing it to them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their defense, when you accuse them, they say, we're hacking you, you're hacking us. And
True.
I'm sure we're hacking them 10 times as much as they're hacking us.
And so Sam, this is separate from the AT&T breach from 2 weeks ago, a week ago.
Well, I think it
This is this,
might be part of the same campaign. That one was
you
also
think so?
yeah, every
Yeah.
couple of days there's another article. I think just more and more is coming out about it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Okay.
why I
So
say
we're
they're
putting pieces together.
yeah, yeah. And I think to be fair, I'm sure a lot of it is classified and hidden, and parts of it are being revealed. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of what is being revealed is in fact misinformation to not reveal the truth. That's the thing about these military activities.
Right.
You got layers of lies, so you never really know. And of course, the decision to release it is part of the general plan I've been seeing for the last 5 years of gradually making every Americans more and more angry at the Chinese to try to warm us up for war with China.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
even with all this being true, I don't see justification for war here. I mean, these really seem they're not killing anybody, they're just spying on us and we're spying on them. I really don't want a war with China.
Yeah. And, the other part of this could be that if China is monitoring Elon Musk and knowing, like, if who's talking to Putin or who's talking to Zelensky,
Well, to be
what phone,
fair,
pardon?
the Trump team got ultra secure phones a couple of weeks ago. So in that respect, they did the right thing. China probably can't hack into the Trump's phones anymore,
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
what it's worth.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
What's your first story? I guess that was a combo story, huh?
Yeah, yeah, sure. All right. Well, so the Russians have a group called Romcom, which hacks into people using Firefox and Tor, using two 0 days, a Firefox 0 day and a Windows 0 day together, although both of them are technically not 0 days. One of them was patched a couple of weeks ago, but a lot of people haven't put on the patch. So all you have to do is open a malicious web page and they can take over your machine with remote control. So then they focused their attacks on Ukraine, Europe, and North America from industries like government, defense, energy, pharmaceuticals, and insurance. So that's a cheerful thought. Even if you're using Tor, they can come right in without you doing anything or they're visiting a website.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then there's an article which I thought was pretty impressive over at the American Prospect, pointing out the incredible amount of rapists that Trump is proposing for cabinet positions. It really is unprecedented and horrible. And of course, what can you expect with a guy at the top who has like 26 sexual molestation convictions and a documented history of just molesting women casually for decades, feeling like he's allowed to do it? So the Secretary of Education, the Commerce Secretary, the Health and Human Services Director, the White House Efficiency Czar, the Defense Secretary, and of course, the first pick for Attorney General all have really serious sexual abuse accusations, in many cases showing that they paid them off and otherwise made it very clear that they're guilty. It really is
So
just appalling.
let me just be clear. It's accusations, not convictions.
Oh, yeah, none of them
Correct.
have been convicted because apparently that would be too much even for Trump, but they have
Okay.
been accused, sued, settled, and made it it's pretty obvious that it happened. And, he's been trying to skip the FBI background check and skip Senate confirmation for all of his appointees, since almost none of them would survive either of those processes. And
And
apparently, that's not going to
yeah,
happen. They're not going to be able to skip Senate confirmation. The Republican senators have pushed back and refused to let him skip that.
I see.
So
I
it
see.
it it may be that Trump is finally not invulnerable. And now that he's a lame duck, maybe some more Republicans will have the guts to stand up to him. Also, since a private interview one week or two, they said the Republican senator said, "Well, we only need Trump for 2 more years." Which is, I think, is a cold, hard truth. I mean, in 2 years, there'll be a senatorial election for some of them, and Trump will still be important then. But in 4 years, he'll be at the end of a lame duck session. His power will presumably be low. And, some senators don't have an election until after that, and some of them are retiring. So more of them could speak up if it wouldn't require enormous courage for them to speak up. So we will see. It's
I
possible
see.
they'll make a
I see.
guardrail against him. And I'm certainly hoping they do, because his plans to raise huge tariffs and to deport millions of uh, undocumented immigrants are both disastrous ideas. And hopefully they'll prevent those things from happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, it is the way him and his whole gang just casually abuse women is appalling. I think it's the kind of thing you would have seen in the 50s. And hopefully they'll block these appointments and try to do better. It's surprising to me so many women voted for Trump after knowing all this about him. It's
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought that was one reason why Kamala would win, is all the women would have had enough of this garbage, outlawing abortion and his ridiculous history of abusing women. And
Yes.
but apparently something like hoping the prices would go down or something outweighed that or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. All
All
right.
right.
Have you got another one?
Well, let's do a couple of years.
All right. So there's one that everyone's making a big deal out of, although it didn't seem that new to me. Wired has a big article about Russians jumping from one network to another via Wi-Fi. So, the old-fashioned way to hack your company with Wi-Fi is to go park in the parking lot with like an antenna and try to connect to the Wi-Fi. But of course, then people can see you and arrest you. So what they did was they wanted to hack into a company's Wi-Fi. So they took over the business across the street, took over a
Yeah.
laptop there, and then attacked from there, which seemed to me pretty obvious. They're saying this is unprecedented and new. That seems to me like, I guess the surprise is lateral movement from one company to another over the Wi-Fi. But that does seem like a better way to do it. And I guess people hadn't thought of that threat vector, uh, not just the machines on your network, but machines within Wi-Fi range.
So wait, run through that again.
Yeah, they wanted to create into a company, so they
Yeah.
took the company across the street and hacked into there, and then took a laptop in that building and hacked into their company through the Wi-Fi from the company across the street. So that's a lateral movement across companies via
Oh,
Wi-Fi.
but it's also across country, right? Or across nations, across
Yes,
borders.
they remotely took it over from Russia. They took
Yeah.
over the
Yeah.
company near you and then hopped over to yours through the Wi-Fi. So I guess people haven't been considering this attack. It seems kind of obvious to me, but apparently this is a new form of lateral movement that people have to add to their threat plans.
Yeah, but it's on. Yeah, I not new to me. Let me put it to you that way. This is sort of like a bot attack, if you will.
Yeah,
Wi-Fi going across the street, if
yeah, yeah,
across the yeah,
yeah. It seems like a small wrinkle, but anyway, making a big deal
yeah,
out of it. Then the next one I got, I thought really pretty interesting. They're blocking Chinese cars imported into America. They're pretty much
yes,
blocked entirely, and they really have to be because Baidu just came out with the sixth update of their level 4 RT6 autonomous vehicle. And this thing is a level 4 autonomous vehicle. It can drive with no human driver at all. And it uses battery swapping and it sells for under $30,000. So their cars are much better and much cheaper than ours. So it really is huge protectionism to block them. So Americans will pay $100,000 for a Cybertruck instead of getting a much better car for 30,000.
Well, they are being sold in Mexico, and I did see a review of the of a truck from China that sells for about $50,000. That'd be equivalent to the Silverado from Chevrolet or GMC Sierra or Ford F-150. And the consensus was it's pretty good. It's actually very good.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's 100% battery. I think it's a hybrid, and it gets about 600 miles per charge and fill up.
Sounds great. I mean, I really think we're impoverishing our own citizens with this protectionism, forcing them to buy
Yeah,
expensive stuff from home. This was the
yeah, th
idea of like globalizing. You will be able to get cheaper imported goods, and it'll be better for everybody. But now we're trying to move into protectionism instead.
well, yeah, it's better for everybody except for American workers. Right?
American workers can buy the cheaper cars.
But not if they were the ones who were making the cars.
Well, that is I don't know. This is a lot like the argument I have with administration at college. Shall we trap students here and force them to take bad courses, or should we actually teach good courses so they want to be here? These are two different philosophies.
True.
We
Yeah,
could just make
true.
better cars to compete on a fair platform. The question is, do we actually deserve to be as rich as we are, or are we just basically thieves hiding the fact? Anyway,
Yeah, so this is an interesting conversation, and it comes down to labor. And the airlines also have the same problem, like United and American, where they have large retirement programs for their pilots. And in the auto workers, same thing. There's a lot of money when you buy a car that goes into retirement fund for the auto workers that assembled it in the US.
yeah, okay. Well, fair enough.
So yeah, yeah, and the Chinese car, pardon me, the Chinese truck, the two gripes that they had is that the regen braking, China doesn't have quite down as well. That's where you use one pedal instead of having to use the brake pedal.
Oh, okay.
So when in most EVs, not all, and this is a setting you could change, but when you let off on the accelerator, it goes into braking mode.
And it actually
And
recovers
so
the energy, right?
it recovers the energy. Right, right.
Yeah,
And if you do it right, you don't use the brakes at all.
right. I've heard
But
that.
again, you can turn it off. And it also has autonomous driving mode that they said is horrible. So,
Yeah. Well, there's another one I thought was pretty amazing. So you probably
all
know in
right.
the Philippines, they had Duterte as the president, and he basically legalized murder. He said people should just kill the drug dealers near them, and a bunch of people just killed their random enemies and got away with it. And Trump said that was great. We should try that here. And
Oh, yeah, sure.
yeah, and so apparently it's pretty dangerous to be a politician there. So the vice president has just announced that she has contracted an assassin to kill the president, his wife, and the Speaker of the House if she is killed, to try to prevent them from assassinating her.
Oh, I see. I see. This is
And
mutual destruction. It's
yeah,
bad again.
yeah, and I was thinking Mike Pence should have tried this. It's anyway, this is I imagine the threat itself is a crime, but anyway, this is a level of savagery.
I see. I see. Well, let me bring up another one here
Yeah,
for you.
yeah,
Uh, so this is sort of Justice Department has argued that Google, which Alphabet, should be forced into selling one of its core businesses.
yeah.
That's
Chrome.
an interesting. Yeah, Chrome, specifically Chrome,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is what they're recommending.
Well, and that seems logical because not only is Chrome a valuable product, but they use it to push other Google services. So there's kind of a conflict of interest.
Yeah, they're collecting data as you're searching, right? The
And they're
internet.
offering Google search, of course, as the default and everything. So
Yeah.
it's sort of self-dealing. This was a lot like, what is it, 1999 when they tried to get Microsoft to get rid of IE for the same reason. If you own both the product and the gateway in, then you're sort of a closed ecosystem where people don't know your competitors exist, and that's like considered an unfair advantage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We could debate that. But anyway, we'll see if this is going to happen. Same argument is kind of going on with Apple in the EU.
Yeah, well, in the EU it might happen. I highly doubt it's going to happen in America.
Yeah, and especially with the presidential change, the
Well, if it was a normal Republican administration like it was in 2000 with Ashcroft, I would say that they're
yeah,
pro-business and they will want to deregulate business. But Trump, I think, does not have any such principles. I think he just it's crony capitalism. If you do a favor for him, he'll do a favor for you. And so the
there you
question
go.
is, has Google bribed Trump? Has Microsoft bribed Trump? I mean, that's what Bill Gates said after that. He said, the lesson I learned is you have to donate to political campaigns. You have to pay your bribe. And I think that's emphatically how it works with Trump. So the question is, has Google been smart enough to bribe Trump yet?
Yeah, and it's an interesting story or interesting topic.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a bribe and a campaign contribution?
Well, there used to be a difference, but I think the Supreme Court erased it about a year ago. Remember, they even said that you can, oh, they said it's not a bribe if you don't pay until after you get the favor. Then it's a gratuity, and that makes it legal. So they legalized the president committing any crime he wants and getting away with it, and they legalized bribery. So, I mean, the Supreme Court is leading the way into total dictatorship and corruption here, and Trump is enthusiastically following.
Yeah.
This is the Federalist Society of Plan for America, such as it is. It's uh, it's quite amazing.
Yeah. Kind of bringing this up, but do you remember Rod Blagojevich?
Oh, Blagojevich, yeah, yeah.
Blagojevich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the
Yeah.
guy that sold Obama's seat after he became president and went to prison, I think, for several years for it.
Yeah. I think, had a 17-year prison sentence, got out after 5 or 7 years.
Yeah, I think somebody commuted.
Why?
Yeah,
Yeah. What was that?
I think somebody commuted him or pardoned him or something, right?
Yeah. Who was that?
Was it Obama?
Nope.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
So it was Trump.
Oh, Trump pardoned Blagojevich. Well, that would
Yeah.
make sense because he's just his kind of guy, and that's the kind of government he wants, crony capitalism.
Yep. And so Blagojevich flopped parties too. He flip-flopped.
Well, sure, he
And
really belongs to be on the Republican side.
yeah.
Although there's tons of corruption on the Democratic side. Boy, there's that guy with the gold bars, Menendez. I think he's still in Senate too. They just took incredible amounts of bribery from foreign nations. They caught him red-handed, and he just refused to step down. And I don't think they got him out yet. So I mean, there's
Oh,
plenty of corruption on the
interesting.
Democratic side, but it's not as
Yeah.
accepted on the Democratic side. When it comes out, the other Democrats complain. Whereas with Trump,
Yeah.
everybody just gets behind him and says, "Yes, do more."
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, interesting story, but an interesting twist about that is his wife stood by him the whole time, sent letters, sent, phone calls, did whatever she could to try and get his sentence overturned. And eventually, somehow that reached Trump.
See, a heartwarming tale of true love.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's out. We'll see what his political career will be in the future,
Yeah.
but I don't think he can be elected to office.
Well, um,
Well,
they were unable to. We know the 14th. They're unable to use the 14th Amendment to block Trump, even though it clearly applied. I think if he gets to the Supreme Court, they'll probably rubber stamp it. They
yeah, okay.
100% behind political corruption and not to care about the Constitution anymore.
Yeah, okay. We'll see. I'm guessing on that. I'm
Yeah,
not certain.
yeah, I don't know.
Please continue. What's the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
story you got for
Well,
us?
so conservative students and professors are winning big settlements from California's community colleges for claiming their free speech has been silenced, which is, and if you look at the stories, one professor, they had some meeting where they were talking about how you had to be sensitive to transgender people by announcing your pronouns. So he said, okay, my pronouns are do, re, mi. And they tried to punish him for that. And that case is still pending in court. Um, then two other professors criticized their school for supporting a nonprofit news site and then criticized specific professors at the Social Justice Institute. And the district ultimately paid them $2.4 million for punishing them for doing that. And then students got together and placed posters, conservative students across campus, that criticized communism. And then they tried to put up pro-life posters, and the college blocked that. So the district had to settle and pay them $330,000. So, the same battle that's happening inside every family is happening at the colleges. And certainly any of those
So,
actions would have been greatly criticized at my school, I'm sure.
so what colleges do you know?
No, just various California community colleges.
So this is a community college level.
Yeah. And just like they'll tell you on Fox News, if you try to make these very conservative statements on a California community college, you will find that everybody hates you, including the administration.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
not acceptable to say it here, and they've been able in court to successfully argue that they should be allowed to say these things. It reminds me of about 10 years back, there was this guy, a far right radical from Britain, Milo Jovanovic or something like that, was going to give a talk at some place like UC Berkeley, and they canceled it and wouldn't let him give his talk. And then there was
Oh, right, right.
fight
Yeah,
over
yeah.
should you let people say offensive things and then talk about it, or should you just block the offensive things because it creates a hostile work environment? And this is not resolved yet, but I think they're mostly choosing the second, to just preemptively censor far right statements at colleges on the grounds that it's too offensive.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This might be an old story, but there was a speaker at UCLA that was being escorted in by the police in riot gear.
Yeah, I think
So,
somebody like Dick Cheney or somebody was supposed to give a talk at a college and they ultimately canceled it because of all the protest.
well, I don't know if I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's
But I
let
mean,
me
this
not
happens
go
a lot.
forward.
I mean, I've
Yeah.
certainly, political
Who's
correctness is real important.
yeah, political correctness. But
Yeah.
colleges, universities is where ideas like this are supposed to be exchanged.
Well, that is an issue. Now, remember there was a school founded in Austin about 3 years ago by people who had been fired from colleges for saying these offensive things. And they said, we're going to be a real free speech institute where you can really say anything and talk about it. I haven't heard what happened as a result, but they were supposed to form a whole new college that wouldn't censor things anymore. And they should be accredited and offering degrees by now if things went as expected. They got donations from some Silicon Valley billionaires and tried to set up some special college in Austin that was going to be the free speech capital. I don't,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what came of it. At first, it sounded crazy. When I actually saw a list of who they were and what they were going to teach, it sounded pretty serious. So might be an interesting alternative. Um, it might
All
just be a
right.
scam too. Anyway, so I've only got one more, which is
Okay.
kind of fun. So this guy in Kansas City, I think, he went into a nonprofit corporation. He went into the building without permission, managed to get access to a computer, and he used a boot disk to circumvent the password and take over the computer, which is pretty elementary. You just boot from like and then he got into the network. It was a gym, I guess. He lowered his own price for gym membership to $1 and started hacking things. Then he sent an email to the company claiming that he had gained access to the computer system and offering them his consulting services to fix it. Says he's assisted over 30 small to medium-sized industrial businesses in the Kansas City, Missouri area and attached his resume. And amazingly enough, instead of hiring him, they turned him in and he's being prosecuted. So this is a fairly common white hat vigilante kind of thing that people do.
Yeah. So let's make sure this is clearly illegal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yet it's what researchers do all the time. They find a vulnerability, then they tell people, I've done it hundreds of times, but I don't steal their stuff. But I have been accused of being the source of the breach like this. This is white hatting. It's considered sort of disreputable and foolish in the business. And I have to agree. What the experts have told me is that if you find a vulnerability in somebody's website and they don't have a bug bounty, just shut up and let them get hacked. That is the
Yeah.
professional thing to
Yeah.
do. I've
Yeah.
often violated this, but I'm afraid my experience justifies their position. If you tell people if they're too dumb to have a bug bounty program, then they're too dumb to understand your email and they'll just end up blaming you.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, it
Exactly.
seems like you're doing a good deed, but it's the kind of good deed that doesn't usually result in anything good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know what I find is, however, if there's if at a college and there is a cyber competition team, then you can talk to them. You need to have somebody that actually understands cybersecurity you can talk to at the other end, though. And most companies have got nobody, and all you got is people that would just misunderstand it and regard you as the attacker. Especially, of
Yeah.
course, if you're kind of clumsy in what you do and clumsy in how you communicate. So that's why I'm always telling my students you really need to work on communication skills. That's probably even more important than technical skills for your career.
Sam, do you know this is a couple years ago, but the Rickroll, the student that Rickrolled his high school.
Oh yeah. He rickrolled everybody. He changed like the official school webpage to a rickroll or something.
No, what he did was he actually did a lot of work. It was sort of a senior prankish, if you will.
Yeah.
And what he realized was all the projectors at the school were on the computer's network.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't his high school, but all the schools in the district.
Oh
They
man.
used the default password. He did this as sort of, I'll call this a senior project, if you will.
Yeah.
He was able to figure out what the IP addresses were for all the different projectors. And what he did was he also looked to see when the exam schedules were, the SAT tests and things like that. He selected a specific date, and at a certain time, a video came, or all the screens went down. If they weren't down, video projectors came on. And then I think there was some announcement like an important message is to follow. And it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then he rickrolled it, maximum volume. This was kind of clever, though. What he did was the remotes would override the volume so it could be muted. So every second, he had the volume go up to maximum. So then rickrolled,
Oh, man.
video screen shut down, went up, and people made videos, and it's what the heck is going on? And then what he did was he submitted, I think, a 27-page report to the principal, to the IT department, to the school board, documenting how he did it.
Yeah, yeah. But if you
So
without permission, they could prosecute you and fire you and expel you and everything.
exactly. But because he had a 27-page report of exactly how he did it and what precautions they need to take, things like change the default password,
Yeah.
things along those lines, set up firewalls, whatever, whatever. Um, he got a scholarship.
Oh, whoa, he. Oh, okay. I was thinking.
That's my understanding.
Uh,
He was recruited like a football player, right?
Boy, you're taking a big chance, though. A lot of people have no sense of humor.
Yeah, yeah,
They will just give you like a
yeah,
jail sentence or something.
yeah, yeah. So, anyway, that's it for me.
Yeah, it's it for me too. All right.
All
We'll
right.
have another one of these things on Friday.
All right. We'll see you on Friday. We'll see what news happens this week.
Yeah, you might think nothing will happen because of the holiday, but I doubt it. There's always
Well, but this is an American holiday.
yeah, and there's always exciting stuff in security. It never stops.
It's true. Yeah.
Okay.
So more attacks usually happen over the holidays
Oh,
when
yes.
the IT departments are sort of on holidays, so to speak.
Yeah, I think I saw an article where people said we should boycott companies that roll out updates on Friday. I wish they would knock this off. They'll put out an update. Of course, it breaks everything. And here we are all weekend again. Anyway,
Yep.
oh,
Yep, exactly. All
well,
right. We'll resume on Friday.
okay.